Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Distance Dilemma podcast. My name is Shaun, and I'm in Dublin, Ireland. This is Imran, and he is in Thun, Switzerland. This is our long distance friendship podcast. This is episode number 44. We're going to kick this episode off with, like how we do every week, with our out of context weekly scenarios. This is the part of the show where me and Imran give each other sections of our week out of context, and the other person has to try and guess what's going on. So, Imran, what is your out of context weekly scenario?
Okay, so my out of context weekly scenario is gangster mentality.
Gangster mentality. Okay, did this happen at work?
No,
Did this was this something that was just you and Nicola?
nothing to do with Nicola.
So you were out with a group of friends.
No,
You were by yourself on the bus.
no.
I always find that when it's not you and Nicola, and you in work, like it's
You
been
struggle
you
a
on
bit
the
more.
bus. Yeah, well, I do struggle a bit more, true, but I always find like I think a couple of times it's like something's happened on the bus. Was this like like something that happened out in public?
I'll just for context, right? It's not anything that has happened necessarily.
Right.
Basically, this is something that's very mundane and easy, but I try to throw you off by giving you gangster mentality. That's what I'll
Did
say.
did you do something like in the house that was like really mundane that like you just kind of felt like a gangster after you did it?
Yes.
Okay, was it something in the kitchen,
No.
toilet,
No. No.
bedroom?
No. No.
No,
I feel
sitting
like I'm
room.
throwing you. I think I'm throwing you way off here, but okay. Just think back to the context of gangster mentality, and then think of something that's mundane.
Uh, Gangster's Paradise.
No,
um, so this is something that like you that is something that you're thought of in the house.
no,
Um, okay. Has it got anything to do with the apartment at all?
no.
Did you like do like a trick shot of some sorts into the bin?
No, no, no,
No.
no. I feel like I'm throwing you way off here.
Yeah, yeah. I've
See
not got.
if I give you a clue, you're going to get it. That's the problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So something super mundane.
Just
Like, is this
just
something I
think
would do?
you have done this.
Like, do I do this regularly?
No, but
No.
you've. See, I can't give you a clue because you'll get
Is
it.
this
Okay.
have I posted about it online?
No.
No. Okay, so it's something that I wouldn't be like showboating online.
Focus more on the gangster part.
Cap.
No. Okay. I'm gonna give you three more goals because I feel like we'll be here all day if you don't get one right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a clue. Um, it involves a lot of it with food.
Did you like? Did you cook a meal?
No. No.
Like,
No. No.
did you
No.
do the
No.
Did you do the food shop?
No. No.
Like, um, okay, something gangster that's related to food. Uh,
Think. You're right there. You're right there. I can see it in you. I can see it in your eyes. You know exactly where you are. I talked about this to you recently last week as well, off camera.
Off camera.
Yeah, that I started something. That's my last clue.
Um, oh fuck's sake! Now I really should get this. Now I'm gonna feel like an asshole for not getting this.
All
All
right,
right,
this is
when
your
do we?
last chance because we'll be
What?
here all day for our listeners.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Right, when did we record the podcast on Wednesday last week?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, you started something got to do with food, and it's gangster.
I didn't
I
start something with foods. Foods related to it.
This hasn't got to do with the Jaffa cakes.
No, no, no. Okay,
Right,
okay. You're gonna take the
I
L
give
this
up.
week,
Yeah, I'm
and he's
taking
actually
the
gonna
L.
be annoyed at this as well. All of basically, my week was very mundane, and the mundane task that it is, I started The Sopranos. And I said it to you last week off camera that I was going to start The Sopranos
No, you
because I
did
said I was
not.
going to watch. I did it because I told you I was going to watch The Sopranos and then I was going to hop out and watch Pluribus. That was what I was going to watch out after.
You did not say that to me last week.
I think he went to 5 Corona gigs, lads. I think he's just a little bit tired. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But you can see how I try to throw you off. Like I said, the food related because a lot of
yeah.
the show is them eating. You know what I'm saying? You know. I obviously
Okay.
try to throw him off with the my gangster mentality. If anyone doesn't know, The Sopranos is basically all right. Italian mobster gangsters. That's and they eat a lot of food in the show, so that's why I said gangster mentality. So yeah, I feel like I did you bad, but also we did talk about it last week off camera, and I did
Did
give
we?
you clues. Yeah, yeah, we did.
I
Yeah,
don't remember talking about it off camera last week.
yeah, because we were asking each other like what shows you're talking about. Because sometimes when we're doing the podcast, we actually don't talk about shows we're watching for obvious reasons because we'll
For
talk about it for
spoilers,
four or
yeah.
5 hours. Yeah, for spoilers, and we talk about it for 5 hours. So. He's not. He looks like he's devastated.
I just feel like an asshole for not remembering that. But
Yeah, yeah,
I don't remember. I remember talking about you starting Pluribus and dipping in and out and stuff, but I don't remember you
mm.
mentioning The Sopranos to me at all.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
Okay,
yeah, there you go.
I'm
There
just
you
a
go.
bad friend and I'm an asshole.
No,
That's
no,
all I
no,
can say.
no.
That's
No.
all
You,
I
you
can say
know,
on that
you
one.
you went like 3 weeks in a row with getting it, so I feel like it's actually deserved that you don't get it.
Okay, you've been put in my place this week, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. Okay, and what is your out of context video scenario? Hopefully, it's not as like thrown off as like the way I did it.
no, I think you could probably get this one. So likewise, what you know what I've been up to the last week,
Of course.
so it's going to be easier for you to hone in on kind of like what's going on around the scenario. But anyway, my out of context weekly scenario is I harassed slash bullied a group of people into something, and I do not regret it.
You harassed a couple of people. Okay, so for context, it's at the Coronas gigs. Yes, I'm
Yes,
on the
yeah,
right area. Of course, yeah. Were you with a group of friends or people that you know?
yes,
Yes. Are these people also fans of the Coronas?
yes,
Okay, did they want to get a photo with the group?
no,
And you were like, oh, okay, does it have something to do with the actual band and the people?
yes,
Yes. Okay. Did people want to get closer to the front so they can get photos and videos? And you asked a couple of people to move out of the way, and they did that?
no,
No. Okay. So, is this before the Coronas were about to come on?
no.
No. Is
Well,
it after the Coronas come on?
yes and no. Yes
It was
and
during the
no.
gig. It was during the gig.
Yeah, so it's during the gig and also before the gig as well.
Can you say again exactly what you said at the start?
I bullied slash harassed a group of people into doing something, and I don't regret it.
Okay, so you harassed a group of people you
I
were
don't,
with
harass and bullying
at
might be a bit of an extreme way to put it, but
yeah,
like
I
no,
know, I know. Okay, okay.
without
I
giving
get
it
the
away,
context of what you're trying to say. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so you were with a group of people watching the Coronas. They were just about on or like just at the start of the gig or something. And okay, so they
You're
weren't
in
on.
you're in the right space, but you're not like kind of
Yeah,
catching
but
the right angle to it.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, okay. So if you're
Just
at a
thinking out
gig
loud.
and you're with a
Sorry,
group,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. If you're with a group and you're with a group of people and did it has anything with them getting closer or like a group of people were in their way
No,
or
no.
okay, was it something to do with getting like what's it called? The set list. They
Yes,
wanted it. Yes, okay. So they wanted to ask for a set list, but they wouldn't do it. So you went up and asked the security guard.
no.
No, okay. So someone has something to do with the set list.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Were the Coronas taking suggestions of songs?
They weren't taking suggestions, but that's where the bullying and the harassment comes into play.
They weren't taking suggestions. Okay, so were you getting a group of people that you were with to shout song titles to the group that maybe they haven't played in a while, and then eventually they ended up playing it?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to give you that one.
Okay,
I'm
come
going to
on.
give you that. So, the full kind of background to that
Okay.
is the reason my voice sounds the way it does this week, folks, is because I was at 5 gigs over the last week, and they were all at the Coronas and the Olympia. My favorite band and my favorite venue. I do it every single year, and there is a particular song that me and I don't know if this is really cool or really sad to say this, but me and the rest of the groupies, there's a song that we love, and they never fucking play it. They used to play it all the time, and look, the Coronas have like 6 or 7 albums now. They've got a long set list and they've got a lot of songs to pick and choose from, like, you know. So they can't play everyone's favorite, and that's fine. But there's a song that everybody loves that they never play, and it's called Get Loose. Do you know it, Imran?
I think so.
They may have
It's
played
off
it.
one. It's off one of like their first three albums,
It's
if it's in that
it's
area.
off their fourth album, The Long Way, which is their most successful album. It's the album where they play the most songs from. To be fair, so I get they might not want to like oversaturate from that album, but like it's just such a bop. And whenever they play it, it goes down so well with us up
Oh
the
yeah,
front,
I know the song. Yeah, yeah.
with the
Sorry, I
like
just
with the
looked at
rest
the
of the
cover.
crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a banger of a tune, and it's such a feel good dance song. Like it just gets everyone's hips shaking.
Hmm.
Like it's just a great tune, and they just don't play it. And I think for them, they've started to like not enjoy it as much. But
Mm.
we just started like a full on like harassment campaign. So we were texting them on the band account. We were texting their personal accounts. We were saying it to crew members. Anybody we saw for the last like kind of 3 days of the shows, we were just like, we cannot wait to hear Get Loose tonight. Get Loose is gonna go off so hard tonight, guys. Oh my god! And then they didn't play it. They played it twice. They played it on Thursday and they played it on Tuesday.
Mm.
And on like it was kind of like a running joke with them that we were like pressuring them
Oh,
into it.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I
like
gotcha.
even on the set list, like it's not on. They didn't write it on the set list. It was me and the guys at the front just screaming at them, "Go play Get Loose, play Get Loose," constantly. Like and eventually they did it for us. Like and they came. I was chatting to the lads last night, and they were like, "Don't ever fucking do that again." Not in an aggressive, in a jokey way.
In
It
a
was like,
joking way, yeah, yeah.
it was like, right, we did it. Stop, shut up now, will you?
I wonder is there many songs similar to that, like besides Get Loose, like that a lot of that the Coronas like want to play, or like they just don't like to play, and like a lot of the fans want them to play. Is there like obviously you would know because you're part of like the fan slash groupies area.
Yeah, there. Well, to be fair, right, there was one in particular that they hadn't played in 10 years, and they played it at all five shows, out of nowhere. This is a song
Mm.
you probably know. It's called "Grace Don't Wait."
Oh yeah, yeah,
They,
yeah,
as long as I've been going to see the Coronas, which is 10 years now, I've seen them play that once, which was my first ever Coronas gig, which is 10 years ago, and
yeah.
I haven't seen them play it since. It's just something that it's one of those ones because it's off their first album. It kind of just got lost to the the rest of the albums, and it's like more songs being added, like but it was a song that always got shouts from like the crowd. Like people used to always request it, but they just never threw it on, and they played it all for all 5 nights. So yeah, I was buzzing with that.
I think that happens probably with a lot of artists though. Like they wanna, once they start making more albums, more discographies, it's hard to like numb down a set list. Like, of course, you're an artist, for example. Like, it's hard like to sit down and be like, okay, these are the songs that I want to play. These, and then obviously when for example, like the Coronas you're saying there have 7 albums. They're very very well known in Ireland, especially. Like to sit down and actually write a set list for 6 nights, it must be difficult to pick like what songs the crowd wants, what songs you want to play. Like it's a bit of a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, and like as well, yeah, like writing a set list, like you have to kind of like control the crowd with it, because like if you just play, like the Crohn's play like 26, 27 songs per night, right? If you just play all really upbeat songs, that's fucking exhausting. You
Of
do
course.
need to like kind of control the flow of the evening. So like you need to bring in some upbeat songs, you need to bring in some downbeat songs, and like I think a really interesting kind of like angle on this is like a lot of people would say with like Arctic Monkeys that like it's like, oh, I hear so much criticism about like the last two Arctic Monkeys albums, and then like subsequently their live shows, because they're like, oh, they're not playing The Sun Goes Down, they're not playing, like they change how they do dance for it. It's like, yeah, but like they have to make it enjoyable for themselves as well, and they're gonna
Exactly.
want to play the new songs because they've played the old songs for years, so they're gonna want to play new stuff, like because there's songs off like new Chronos albums that I love that don't get played
Hmm.
because they have to make way for the classics, for the hits, and then likewise there's songs from the new album that wouldn't be my favorite, but they have to play them because they're off the new album. They're the big singles and stuff, like.
We'll move on because this is kind of on the concept of our kind of topic for this week a little bit as well.
Mm.
And Sean we were actually going back and forth this week with our topic. I'll let actually Sean bring it in because he actually came up with the concept.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to talk a little bit about our goals and our aspirations, or like I kind of pitched to Imran as like a bit of a 5 year plan as well. It doesn't have to be
Mm,
particularly like where do you want to be in 5 years and how are you going to get there, but I there was a clip from the podcast recently, and you had talked about like how some of your friends thought you oh yeah, you're in Switzerland now and that might be for a year or two or three when realistically it could be 5 or 6, and
mm.
that's where that idea kind of snowballed from. I
It
just thought
kind of
it'd be
leads into
interesting.
like the new year as well. But a lot of people, like new year, new me, them kind of aspirations. So for the time, and it's probably a
Yeah, but
good
that
concept to
was
bring it
also
up.
that's also what I was thinking of as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll just start off on essentially, because funny enough, actually, me and Nick actually spoke about this last night. Like, what kind of is the plan? I mean, if people that haven't listened to the podcast before, and this is my first time, so myself and my partner Nicola have moved to Switzerland 2 years ago. Well, coming up to around 2 years now. And originally, the plan was to stay for about 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and save money that way. But because of our situation, it didn't really work out that way. We didn't really get settled till maybe I'd say mid this year. So our plan was like we were talking last night was that we'll probably end up staying till the end of 2028, and that December we'll come home for Christmas and then we'll be back in Ireland for good. Like that's kind of the plan, and that just gives us a little wee bit. Of course, like you don't know what could happen in between time, family members or situations that maybe we need to retire. So if I'm going to give you like an ideal plan, the idea is that within the next 5 years, myself and Nicola would have returned home. We probably would have been getting our jobs that we need to do. For Nicola, because she's in the science area, that's kind of what she's working towards. I've said it recently on the podcast as well that I went back to college. I'm still in it now. I'm coming to the end of the course of project management. So for me, I'm kind of looking at going into like the civil service because I feel like that's a good setup for myself, and I can make a bit of money, have a bit of a better lifestyle for myself. Because I mean, as Sean knows, like I'm really big into traveling and going to gigs and doing all these things. Which in this day and age, Sean knows how expensive all them things are. Yeah, it's funny how like things with like your ideas of what's important to you happens and changes throughout the different years. Like obviously when you're a bit younger, like you think about stuff like, oh, it's important, like what's the next TV show I'm gonna watch, what's the next movie I'm gonna watch. Like your priorities change dramatically. And I still do think about those things, but it's like it just has changed so much in the past couple of years since moving away as well, like about what I want and where things are gonna go. And I think you probably are in like a similar same bet because you've moved in with Simone as well, but you obviously have your own personal career that you want to work on too. So I'm sure you have an idea of where your 5 year plan is in place.
Yeah, it's something that's kind of come up recently, like in thinking about like work and stuff like where like I want to be like because while have enjoyed my job and stuff, it's also like I also know that like do I want to do this for like 4 years? Like maybe not. Like I think I would do a little bit better in a more creative kind of space. And obviously, look, I've made no secret of it on the podcast. Like, no, you know this about me for years that like I want to be a musician, and you know that doesn't have to be playing shows in stadiums. Like, I actually would hate that. Well, hate might be a strong word, but I wouldn't like, you know, I'm not aiming to like sell out stadiums and do that. Like I just want to be making money doing music in some form. Like that's all I really want. Like so doing stuff like that's where like for me like the Coronas are like perfect because like they're the level I want to be at because like they can walk down the street and while they'll get recognized, they won't get like mobbed by people like Ed Sheeran or Dave Grohl or Chappell Roan. Like those are people who like can't. Taylor Swift, like she can't just go down to
Mm,
the shops and buy a pint of milk. As
hmm.
Cheryl Cole, you just can't nip down to the shops in your pajamas for a pint of milk anymore.
Yeah.
You can't. You just can't do that sort of thing. Like so for me, like I want to just be at that point, and like I think I could do that in like possibly 5 years. Like it's about like getting the placemats in place to like have a backbone to fall back on. Really, like I'd love to play like a show in Whelan's, like a headline show in the main room in Whelan's and sell out or something like that. Like that would be something I'd like to do in the next 5 years. Like but I'm also very cautious of like having like been laid off from jobs and stuff before that. Like the goalposts can shift so much depending on
Yeah.
what comes up. Like I notoriously had like a horrible 2024. Like where like my mom was diagnosed with cancer and died, and like I got laid off from a job like within a few weeks of that happening. And like that was when I nicked Betsy that time as well, before the actual car crash, which was this year. I also like
Rip.
I also like dented the car a little bit. Like all these things were like happening in one burst. So like life has its ways of like really coming at you. But like
Yeah.
just to go back, like similar to what you were touching on as well, like I think like we talked about those kind of like adulting responsibilities last week
Hmm.
as well on the podcast about like paying your bills and like looking after these type of things, which
We
suck.
all have to do, and they
We all
suck.
we all got to do like but we all still have like kind of dreams to chase, like
And how important do you think, like, and not just getting older, but like looking at aspirations and goal settings, and do you think like a lot of people get fixed on the ideology of like, okay, I just live like a 9 to 5 job. I go home, I go to the pub with my mates on on a Friday, and there's nothing wrong with that life as well. But do you think people like get lost in that rat race cycle, and it's so hard to like get out of like a mentality thing of chasing goals and aspirations and wanting to do things?
yeah, I think like it's the unknown that's the worst part about that. Like I think the worst thing someone can do is like not try.
Yeah.
Just like I think you should, even if you set a goal to like be like, me and you are about 26 now, like we're not going to play in the Premier League, but to set
No.
yourself the goal of like, oh yeah, I'm going to try and be a Premier League player by the time I'm like 35 or something like that. Is it realistic? No, but like the worst thing you can do is not try and not give it a go. That's a very exaggerated version of it, of something like that. Like like the word, like the hardest part is just taking that first step.
Mm.
It's similar to what I touched on like last week about like my weight loss and stuff. Like of like it's easier now because I'm in the groove, but like before, like the hardest part was just getting started. Like the hardest part is the first
Showing
step.
up. Yeah.
Showing up. Yeah,
And it's to keep doing it as well as is also another thing. I think
yeah,
once you find that nice spot where everything seems to be lifting easier, and when you're showing up, you're doing a good workout, and it seems to be all smooth. That's like the best time, I think, when you're like in that kind of gym setting. But like that's not anything. I'm sure it's the same with music. I'm sure there's like a time where you feel like everything you touch in music is great, and then there's other times where you can't even put a string or two together. Like I'm sure it's up and down, and that's like with everything, depending on what your passion is.
yeah. Absolutely. It's like I think the big thing in with this, like with your dreams, with your goals, with your career, with your family, is like just showing up and not giving up. Like always having like that little bit of faith. I think that like the worst thing that can happen is nothing happening in a way. Like I don't like the mindset of like not doing something because it's unrealistic. It's like nothing is realistic if that's the type of attitude that you have. Like.
Yeah, we really need to tap into the Nike ad now and just say, just do
Just do it, yeah.
it.
But it
What?
is kind of true in that way.
No, no, it is. What's your opinion on like short term slash like long term goals? And that's like something that I've been really big on over the past 2 years. Obviously, like you and myself are like got into kind of like the idea of like diary planning and diary writing, like your
Mm.
times with meeting with people and like what you have to do and your daily tasks. But one thing like that I brought in probably the past 2 years, I'd say, is like looking at short term goals that are like accessible, that you could reach them in a time period that you want. And then
Yeah.
like a long term goal, like you said, there would be like playing in the Premier League. It's just an aspiration. It mightn't actually happen, but you have like a step plan to make it happen. And like that's what you're saying. It kind of ties into the 5 year plan as well.
Yeah, like I'm a big believer in just kind of going, and this is something that's kind of maybe changed with like how the last few months have gone for me, like but I try to just kind of go at things. If something can be done quickly, just do it. And that can apply to anything. That can apply to like going for a walk. That can apply to doing the dishes. That can apply to cooking. That can apply to cleaning the house. Or like I think we all like get into like ruts of like there's a pile of clothes in the corner that needs to be put away. It would take 5 minutes to put the clothes away, but they're going to sit there for 5 days until you get the mental energy and strength. Whereas like I've found now that I'm kind of like trying to take a bit of a rip the band-aid off kind of approach to it, and like it
Mm.
does and it doesn't work, because like I then find sometimes like I have days where like it's 9 a.m. and I just don't stop until like 5 to 6 o'clock, and then all of a sudden like you're really overwhelmed and flustered and frustrated, and because you didn't like plan accordingly and you didn't give yourself like breaks, and that can apply to, doing stuff around the house. Like, sometimes you end up down a rabbit hole on cleaning, and all of a sudden the house is spotless, but then like you also had like four other things that you were meant to do that,
Yeah.
the tasks just kind of keep piling up, and then while you were doing these things you thought of other things that need to be done, and it can lead down a road of like, where like it can become quite overwhelming. But I think it's better to kind of have that than to constantly, I don't know if procrastinate is the right word for it, but like just like setting, like, no, I think like the achieving long-term goals really starts with setting yourself short-term goals like that, like saying to yourself, I'm going to go for a walk, and it's such a cliche thing, but like, it's cliche. It's a cliche for a reason. Like, just setting yourself those goals. Like, I'm going to go for a walk twice a week, or I'm going to go to the gym twice a week, or I'm going to do little things like, just baby steps building up to that time. But yeah, I'm a big believer in those, like those small goals and those small wins will set you up for long-term success.
And I do think a lot of like kind of the obsession we all have with our phones and doom scrolling has like led into that kind of procrastination stages that have like happened in lives. Like there might be times where, and even like we all say it, like me and you've been talking about it before, and like on the podcast, is where like you have to go and do something like a task or whatever. You need to do the washing, or you need to go to the shops and pick up something, but it might actually take you half an hour if you just didn't stop the doom scroll, and that kind of leads into the procrastination that you're saying there. I think a good thing to get out of that would be like kind of like ticking the box, daily activities. Like that's something like I kind of lean into, being like, okay, I know I need to do this and this throughout the day, and if I just scratch it off down the list, I know then, okay, right, I've done that. Now I know I need to go do college. Right, once I've done college, right, I have an hour there, I can watch a show I want to watch. Boom, done that. Off to work. You know what I mean? Like you're making time, but you're also like have it down in front of you, so you can actually remember to do it. But I feel like sometimes a lot of us, and I definitely struggle with this sometimes, is like I might procrastinate over doing the one task due to the fact that I've genuinely just sat on my phone for half an hour doom scrolling. And I think it is like a dangerous area that people can get into, like a life cycle loop, and it's very hard to get out of. But like sometimes you doing the small mundane tasks actually excels you into the like achieving short-term goals. And then that leads into then the idea, okay, right, I've achieved these short-term goals, now I'll look to my long-term goals.
Yeah. And see, and it's like you'll get like you often probably find as well that like if there is like bits of like, I'm just using kind of like how cleaning around the house as an example, because it's something that I can kind of relate to, and I think most people will be able to relate to. It's like if the whole house needs to be cleaned, or just a bit, like you've got people coming over and you want to tidy up and blah blah. Like usually pick the simplest thing to do first. Take, like, if it is putting the clothes away, if it is hoovering the stairs, wherever is going to be quickest. It's often like, just getting up off the couch or like getting out of bed, or it's just getting yourself into motion, and then once you're moving and going, and once you get kind of into a flow and into a zone, you're flying then, like, and then all of a sudden like you're like, oh Jesus, like why was I dreading this for so long? Like, like you said, like sometimes you can just get trapped in a doom scroll, you know. I try to keep my doom scrolling like very early in the morning and very late at night. Like I try to, like I when I wake up and before I start work or whatever, like I will usually go on and just like that's more just for checking like what's happened overnight. Like I don't watch the news, so like if anything comes up my social feed, that's kind of how I'm finding out. Like so I usually find it then I do try like from maybe like 9, half 9 onwards in the day to like not doom scroll until I get to like kind of more bedtime, where like I am kind of like using it as a wind down type of period. Like we've talked about it before about like like focusing in on how you use social media, like not just in terms of how like how you operate it and how like it affects your life, but like where it works in your daily calendar and stuff as well.
And I think like, we could probably do a whole nother topic on doom scrolling later in the coming weeks, because there's so many different avenues you can look at with social media and doom scrolling, and like different avenues that you can actually use as an advantage to yourself. Like for example, like it's never been more accessible and easier now to learn how to do something, because you've so many videos on a topic. So like if you want to learn how to cook, you can learn how to cook purely through YouTube, or you could learn through like different recipes through TikTok or Instagram. Maybe great for finding like different influencers or particular on that kind of topic. So I feel like it's a whole nother section we could do on that alone. Relating more back to like the goal settings, like is there anything that you specifically have for yourself? Like you said there, music is one. Is there another goal that you have within the next 5 years that you're like, okay, that's something I want to hit off?
I'd like to probably like maybe have like we're renting our place at the moment, so I'd like to be a little further along the way to buying a house. Like I'm not saying like I have to have the full deposit ready to go because we're very lucky to be in the situation we're in now where we can afford to save a little bit. So like we're not itching to go. Like I think like if we had the opportunity to go like on a nicer holiday or experience some things, I think we'd also be willing to put more money towards that currently, rather than like just definitely other people in our situation, other people who are like in our age group who have to put aside every single spare penny that's not going on the food shop and the electricity bills and the rent, like every, whereas we're kind of lucky that we can afford to, because of our living situation, we can like afford to stay here for a few extra years. That's not the case for everyone, so yeah, maybe like just like focusing a bit more on building up money, but then also experiencing a few little things as well. Like where you talked earlier about like getting engaged and having kids. Like me and Simone could not be further on the opposite end of that. Like we just don't want that at all. Like we've even like said like if we ever do tie the knot, it'd be like a really like low key casual, probably just go in, sign the documents, and not I don't think we'd like want like a big wedding day sort of thing, and we both don't want kids as well, like so
That's where it's funny how you look at different people's like
yeah.
priorities and goals over the years. Is like everyone is so different in what they aspire and want and need, and I think that's good. Like to see like me and you are such good friends, and like we've grown up. We know each other probably over 10, no, about around over 10 years now. Like friends, I'd say probably 7 to 8. And it's funny like to see where like our priorities lie are like similar but also different in a way to like reflect and perspect on. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
right.
is there anything else you want to say on the topic that you've been looking at, or
I think I'm ready to move on if you're ready to move on.
I'm ready to move on, sir.
Ready to move on, cool. Right, well, we're moving on to current affairs, and the week that this episode comes out will be around Christmas of sorts. Maybe when you're listening to this, it is Christmas Day. If it is, I pity you. But anyway, yeah. So current affairs this week, we're gonna just delve a little bit into the big fella Saint Nick and the science and the thermodynamics of how this fella gets around. Because I'm calling bullshit on this, lads. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not convinced. There's something a bit fishy about all this carry on. So you're telling me this fella's got 12 reindeer, a sleigh, fat stacks of presents in the back, right? And he's got to go to, what, 130, 140 odd countries? How many countries are in the FIFA Core rankings? 226, isn't it? How
I
many of them are, not of the Christmas faith, shall we say? You know? I don't want to be like Muslim and be like, oh, like get cancelled or something like that. But how is this fella doing the rounds? Like, there's something that the maths just is not mathsing right now.
it's funny to think like Santa Claus has like been going on for so long. Like the tradition is like I think it dates back to um like the fourth century or something like that. I think I can pull up here 1 second.
He's not
Yeah,
man.
so
He's a white beard, like so
yeah, it says here,
he's
yeah,
getting on a bit.
yeah, like it says here, like he's it started as from Saint Nicholas, as Shaun said there, a fourth century Greek bishop from Myra, Turkey, known for secret gift giving, and that's kind of then his Dutch nickname was Sinterklaas, became Santa Claus, evolving through European traditions. So like it's crazy to think how long the tradition has been going on and how long as like when you think about it as a kid on like that perspective, it's like we kind of knew it was bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, sorry for our listeners here, but like if you know what I mean. Like you're feeding into this idea that you've been told since you were a kid that this fat old man is able to get 12 reindeers and travel all around the world in one night and give presents to everyone. Like, come on, there's no
I
way you
just
could drink all that milk.
I just can't believe that, like that's the case with Santa, but the Tooth Fairy is real, like,
Yeah, of course,
of
100%.
course,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the Easter Bunny is real, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
That's
is
why I
real.
never get Easter eggs. It must be very bad.
Yeah, but yeah, how like it's kind of a madness thing where
You know what I think as well is like it'd be funny if he was like lactose intolerant.
yeah, he's just
Can
got
you
like
can like can you
that's
imagine
actually
him?
what's powering the sleigh. It's actually just Santa's diarrhea. The shits are just zooming them along.
Can you imagine him as just gassing through the sky and that's how it's powered? And I think as well, like, would he never get sick of eating cookies and carrots? Like, did no one just even leave him like an Indian or something, or you know,
A cheeky little balti and a fucking butter
little
chicken.
ballsy, you know? I'm sure he gets sick of eating like 50 different cookies from
Well, it
like all
depends.
the parts of the
I mean,
world.
is it the Marks and Spencer's cookies that we're getting, or is it the
No, no,
Foxes?
no.
If it's the
I'll be down
Foxes,
with that.
you'd get sick of them after two or three houses, like But the M&S ones now, Marks and Spencer's
I,
cookies, I could take at least 20 houses worth of Marks and
I
Spencer's
completely
cookies,
agree. That was the best thing when I worked there and used to get the leftovers at the end of the night. Oh my days.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
like that's Marks and Spencer's cookies are go. Heartbroken how many calories are in those things.
I know. I don't even want to
You
know how
don't
many
want to know,
calories in
man. You
there.
really don't want to know. It's for context. The calories in one of those cookies is more than what I had for breakfast this morning.
Jesus.
One cookie.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah, it's funny like the tradition has been going on so long and it's so, mainstream throughout Europe. Like I'd love to think in like a different universe, like how he would be presented. Like maybe he's like, I don't know.
Imagine
Like
aliens came to Earth and like they came around Christmas time and they're like, who is this mystical being who is due to arrive on the 25th? Is he an attack? Is he because like imagine like right? Let's just say like they land at like 3 a.m. Right? There's nobody in. They land towards the shopping center. They go towards the shopping center because they're hungry. They need a bit of food. Right? This is all absolute bullshit as well. By the way, guys, this is the time to like clock off and like go make yourself tea and like have some kettle background noise. But we're standing on business here, right? Imagine like aliens come down 3 a.m. They come down near a shopping centre. They're strolling off the planche. They're going into Dunn's to raid the bakery or get their whatever aliens eat, their fucking cherries, chocolate, orange, and they go in and they see all this shit about a Mr. Claus, a Mr. Santa Claus, and he's a mystical being who can carry around this fucking 700 kg sack with all these presents, some of which could be Nerf guns, by the way. So you've got a weapon there, He can fucking take a feed, and so there's no point in poisoning him. And he flies around, and he's got 12 animals at the ready to go with like honestly, he's ready to go to war, right? And those
let's
animals are
let's
ready
not
to go to war with
forget
him.
let's not forget he also has an army of elves in the North Pole that he can call and request at any time.
Exactly, he has
I'm
them on
sure they've
speed
got
dial.
some backup reindeers, you know. I can see this, like aliens versus Santa Claus, this like epic battle of the ages.
This is the film that Hollywood needs to make. We're done with all these reboots and sequels and Alien versus Predator. What we need is Aliens versus Santa Claus.
I want to see it made. I demand it. I can
Well,
see that being like a TikTok
speak to
movie.
Scorsese. He knows a good idea when he hears it.
Yeah, I think we should keep that away from Tarantino. I think he'd be looking at elves, feet, and
Well, I was
alien
going to say, yeah,
tentacles.
it would just be an alien tentacle fetish
Yeah,
fest.
and Paul Dano hate. Yeah, so
For sure.
it's interesting to see like how much like over across Europe and like even ourselves growing up, like how much is advertised in your face as well. Like you can't get away from it.
Yeah. Even like I always wondered what it was like, and it's why like I'm very like standoffish with Christmas now as well. Is like what's it like for like I remember like there was kids when we were in primary school that were like in my class that were Muslim that had to like step out of the room when we were doing religion because it was obviously Catholic bullshit we were being taught, and yeah, I always wondered like what it was like on their side of the coin because they obviously wouldn't celebrate Christmas because like if they're being, I would imagine like if they're being taken out of class like that, their parents would have had quite strong, you know, beliefs in like they didn't want them to overhear.
Fun fact: I actually wasn't in class either in primary school. My mum used to
Oh,
take me
all
out of
right, here we
class.
go. First hand, take it away.
Yeah, so it was me. shout out to Bolo and like another girl who was actually Muslim. Obviously, not saying Shaun, but he's Jehovah's Witness. But shout out Shaun. And it was like this kind of like it's weird. It's like you're completely neglected from the rest of the class, like without wanting to be. It's like you're looked upon differently. Of course, this is like second class, third class at the time, and then it's funny then because I actually picked religion then in when we went to school, so it's kind of funny how all things worked out. But again, like we were saying before, talking about I think we were talking about Live O, um, about how like they're still teaching the same book that they taught for like the last 30 years is just crazy to me, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, they've been teaching at the same book for the last 2025 years, really,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
El Bible, as some might call it, or the Bible. It's just the
Uh,
same shit. It's the same story being retold in different ways. You know.
we'll leave that to the eccentrics. We'll leave that to the
Yes, we that's
eccentrics.
the eccentrics. We'll move on to your dilemmas for the week,
Yes,
I think.
so this is the part of the podcast where we dissect your distance dilemmas that you send to us. So basically, I get your dilemmas, I completely randomize them, mix them up, don't look at them, and then I look at them again, and then I don't look at them again, and then I look at them again, and then reshuffle them around, and myself and Sean go through them and discuss your dilemmas. So, the first one we have here is I'm trying to get better at setting boundaries, but every time I say no, I feel like a bad person. How do I get comfortable putting yourself first? You go first on this one.
Okay.
Throw them under the
This,
bus straight at the start.
yeah, I mean, also want to thank you for taking up the intro part of that because my voice is getting worse and worse as this podcast
Yeah.
goes on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll give him a break,
Um,
lads. He did go
I,
to 5 gigs this week.
yeah, like I'll be honest, I struggle with this as well because like I know myself sometimes I need to like not do things because my calendar is too full. But if I see an opening, and even though I know I should probably have that time to myself, like it could be like my full week's booked up, but I haven't got anything on Tuesday evening. Somebody asks me for something on Tuesday evening, like or like can I meet up with them or can I do them a favor? And I'm really bad at saying no when I really should. I kind of go through waves with it. Um, for me, what I found can be helpful is to not respond straight away. You know, so when you see the message come in and like I can be you know very critical of people taking too long to reply on stuff as well. I don't mean like don't reply to them for 2 days. Like I'm not saying that, but don't feel you need to like answer a question relating to that straight away. Now maybe you've already seen the message, so it might just be like, oh, is it okay if I get back to you? Or try and not totally deflect, but just give yourself a little bit of time to actually sit and think. Like for me, my experience with this is definitely like when it comes to like time management on my calendar and trying to fit people in and trying to also like give myself breaks and some space and time to be with Simone. Like it's something I've touched on quite a lot on the podcast. So yeah, it can be hard not to feel like a bad person when you're saying no to people, but I would say follow your gut. Like I had something last week where I wanted to do something, but I said no. My gut is telling me that I need to go the other way, and it turned out to be the totally right decision. Like I knew like after the kind of like window had passed by that yeah, okay, maybe it would have been a nice thing to do the other thing, but like I knew in my heart, and I knew the next day, when I didn't have a sense of like, oh, I wish I had done that, I knew that I'd made the right call. So I think listening to your gut is very important, and just taking the time to evaluate a decision as well. Like and come here, it's never going to be perfect. Like I'm still really guilty of it. I've spent the last 5 nights out of the house and I haven't seen Simone, and I'm going to Belfast the weekend as well. So like I'm definitely not perfect at it. But my best advice would be to take your time, evaluate things, and just try your best. And there's give and take. You say like you feel like a bad person, but you might help somebody else feel better at some point as well. So yeah, I hope that
Jeez, I
helps.
wish I wish I went first. How am I going to follow that? That was great. I'm
I
going to
That
be
was
taking so
absolute waffle.
I'm going to be taking his information that he said onto myself. Um, Yeah, so I think without kind of, I mean, I agree with everything Sean said, well, a lot what Sean said, but I think for me, the one thing I would say is in a first situation like this, the best thing to do is just reflect on yourself, put yourself and your interests first before that can benefit you, then that will help then the other person that you're saying. Because like a lot of the times, we kind of all fit into this kind of category depending on like kind of the person you are, but it kind of can come across as like we're like a people pleaser, like you're afraid to say no to someone even though you don't necessarily want to do it. And like I have myself definitely done situations like that. I've been in so many work settings, friends environments, and even responsibilities that I knew in my heart that I didn't want to do, but I put them because I became into that category of like I'm trying to please other people. And the problem with that then is then you get taken advantage of. So I think we're kind of reflecting back a bit on what Sean said, like it's really good to like evaluate your situation before you kind of go into it. And I think this is like a situation where you can always grow in and get better at. Because the person says, how do you get comfortable putting yourself first? I feel like comfortability with this situation kind of comes and goes. And I feel like the more you put yourself first, it will get better over time. And one thing final thing I kind of have to say on the thing about setting boundaries is kind of find out what works for you. And then once you put them into place, then it's kind of like a trial and error because then you can see, okay, well, this worked for me with this person, this doesn't work with this person because not everyone communicates the same. Not everyone, responds well to phone calls or in-person conversations. Like I'll give you an example. Like I've kind of been dealing with a situation with a family member at the moment, and what's been working for me is this person communicates really well through letters. So we've been sending like letters back and forth, and that seems to be getting my point of view across a lot better. And I feel like that works for that person, so it's been easier for me to communicate through the way that works with them. So I feel like once you got them kind of, I don't want to say like policies or procedures in place because it sounds really like like an
Very
organization, but
corporate.
yeah, very corporate, but once you've got things in place that works for you, it makes it a lot easier then for you to make that space. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think actually I did okay there going after you, but it was a hard one to follow. We'll move on to the second one here. I really struggled with balancing my work slash life balance. Any tips? I'll go first on this one just because it kind of ties into what I kind of have brought into my life the past 2 years. So again, I know I sound a bit like a broken record, and me and Sean kind of talk about it a lot. Actually, a lot of the time, it's funny enough because Sean was kind of the person who kind of suggested the idea to me. But diary writing, and I'm not mean diary writing necessarily and reflecting on your opinions and your ideas and what your emotions are, which is probably good for if that works for you as well. But I mean more in terms of like setting short term, long term goals and daily tasks has been like hugely beneficial for me, and it helps me get way more organized. Not everyone works like that. There is people that can just genuinely do things off the cuff, but I've really struggled with procrastination over the years, and I felt like this was like the best thing for me to organize my work life balance. And again, it's something that's currently ongoing. I'm always trying to get better at. But from a personal experience, what I would suggest is find out what's important and what needs to be done within a certain time period. And then once you've got that down, it's very easy then to go step by step in what you need to get done. So like Sean said there, it could be you need to get an assignment submitted, you need to do the house clean, you need to go to the shop, or it could literally be then okay, I want to look at my holidays for the year with my partner, I want to look at meeting up with friends and going to a gig. Like little things like that, it works a lot better of having more. And what you'll end up doing is you'll have more time for yourself than you realize, and then you can use that towards your interests, either that playing video games, meeting up with friends, watching movies. Like I even have for example, like I even have a list on my phone of movies and shows I want to watch, and I literally take them off and get rid of them as I go along. So like I was saying there before, like I'm currently watching Sopranos. Like I've been procrastinating watching the Sopranos for like the past year and a half now, 2 years. But now I'm only eventually getting to it now because of all the other shows I had before. So once you get things in place, it's a lot easier to take them off along the way. And that's just an example I'm using because interests comes a lot with work-life balance because you gotta work hard to play hard, as that old saying.
All right, Pitbull.
All right, I know. You like that one? You like that one?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, like for me, like I used to be very, well, I still would consider myself somebody, and Imran, you've described me as this in the past. It's like I'm very all or nothing. I'm 100% in, or I'm not in at all. So when it comes to work, I found that that approach really isn't healthy, because it's not good to not be involved and to like be like, basically not like, I feel like if you're given 0%, you're not going to be great at your job. But then also likewise, given 100% is fantastic in theory and in writing, but then I also associate that type of obsessiveness that I have when it comes to giving my all into things with somebody who would like, skip lunch breaks and, like, go after every single lead and go after every single email and like, do everything max to 100%, which I'm sure is what every single boss and every single employer wants to hear and stuff. But like, to do that 365, or like to do that 300 days a year, 50 weeks out of the year when you're not on leave or off the weekend, it's not sustainable and it's not realistic. So I feel like managing your own expectation and tasks is a big part of it. Giving yourself a break as well, because I feel like, especially kind of like what we'd said before with social media, like, there's this like, kind of corporate world on social media outside of LinkedIn. Like, there's like a lot of 9 to 5 memes on TikTok and Instagram and stuff that I see. And don't focus on what other people are doing, just focus on your own career and your own goals. Something that's really helped with me is, now I was lucky enough to have a work phone. So I have my personal phone, my work phone, and that was a massive benefit to me. So if you do have a job where you have a work phone, what I would do is I had an automation set up on my phone where my phone would go in, my work phone would go on to do not disturb when I wasn't in work hours. So that way, if me and Imran were doing the podcast outside of my work hours and my work phone's on my desk and it blings up with an email or a message, I'm not getting distracted by that. It won't come up on my screen until I clock into work or until that I turn that automation off. Now if you don't have the benefit of that, like, if you've just got your personal phone and like, that's where your work group chat is and that's where your work email and stuff is, I would do as much as you can to separate your channels as much. And like, that can also be, you can like, I know on the iPhones, I'm not sure about Android, but you can like, change, have different notification settings. So you've got your do not disturb, you've got your personal, you've got your work, and like I would set up a similar kind of maybe automated system where when you're in work you get these emails as notifications, but when you're not in work you don't. And I feel like it helps to separate the worlds a little bit. Now look, obviously you'll still have access to it on the phone, and you'll be able to tap in. But I think stuff like that is really, really helpful. It stops you thinking about work on your days off, like, because I've had really bad Fridays in work. And then, it just makes your weekend a lot clearer because you're not, having reminders, you're not having the group chat on. And it's probably muting the work group chat is probably a good idea as well. And like, if somebody really needs you, they'll either ring you, they'll text you directly, or they'll mention you in the WhatsApp group. They'll at you, at Imran, do this, at Shaun, do that, like, so yeah. And like, and I'd said this to my co-workers when I first started my job, like, you almost kind of have two different versions of yourself. You have your personal self and you also have your corporate self, and I feel like it's important to be aware of that. Like when I'm in work, I can be a bit more dry, a bit more standoffish because, at the end of the day, like a job can be gone like that. You got to follow procedures and you got to be careful with how you do things. So just being kind of aware of that. But anyway, my tips would be mainly the notifications thing and trying to separate that and trying to, if you have a work phone, set up automations and stuff.
I think the benefits of just like kind of like just focusing on that for a second, and you'll see yourself being a lot more present as well. Either that being a work setting or even with friends and families that you want to be with, because you're less stressed and like less concerned about burnout from work, or I don't know, if you're chasing a goal or whatever. You'll see that over time that you'll feel a lot more present with the people that are most important for you. And I think that kind of ties into what Shaun was saying there, like you have two different versions of yourself when you are in like a work setting and at home. And I think it's good to find a balance. Once you find that balance, it allows more space and time for you to find out ways to work with that work-life balance. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
for
that's
sure.
kind of what I've had on talking that topic. But yeah, thanks for anyone that has sent in your listens dilemmas. We do really appreciate it. Definitely been my favorite part of the show that since we kind of changed since we took our break a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, okay, guys. Well, I think that's probably the perfect place to wrap up this episode of The Distance Lemma. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is episode number 44. My name is Shaun. I'm in Dublin, Ireland. This is Imran. He is in Toon, Switzerland. This has been our long distance friendship podcast, and we will chat to you again next week at 6 a.m. Irish. No, sorry, yeah, 6 a.m. Irish time, 7 a.m. Central European time every single Monday. Thanks very much for listening, guys, and we will chat to you again next week.
Peace.